Welcome, welcome. This is going to be our first take of the 32-man Dynasty League Power Rankings. My name's Andy. I'm the Atlanta Falcons.
My name's Austin. I'm the Washington Commanders. This is a special edition of the Fantasy Flow, and we're recording on May 15th, and we're just taking you behind the scenes, doing a deep dive into our own 32-team Superflex Dynasty League. We're going to go through all 32 teams, and maybe this is kind of a roast session. Maybe this is we're going to brag on your team for you. We'll see.
And quick note, neither of us have shared our power rankings with each other, so this will be a surprise for both of us.
That's right. Yeah, we went through all of the teams individually and came up with our own sort of our own stratification of all 32 teams where we think the league is at. And I'm super excited to get into it, Andy. How are you doing? And what are you most looking forward to with this?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm ready for like you said, I'm ready for the roast. As you can see here on the screen, we got a little bit silly with our tier rankings. You can go 1 through 5, A through E, whatever you feel like it, but tier 1, good chance to win it all. Tier 2, playoff worthy. Tier 3, strong core. Tier 4, please help me, and or please help, and tier 5, Jesus save me.
Yeah, I'm most looking forward to just all the smack talk. I hopefully no one takes it too seriously or actually gets offended. I mean, this is the best part about fantasy football to me is just the smack talk and the camaraderie. So I mean, there's going to be good teams, there's going to be bad teams, winners, losers, but things change real quick. And especially here at the beginning, we just did the startup a month ago at this point, so everyone's relatively close. We're gonna rank them all over the place, but like there's a lot of room for movement. Especially with all the draft picks basically being settled, with one notable exception. One team has already started to accumulate future draft capital. But
Right.
what do you go for it?
And we're also ranking these teams just based off of how we think they're going to do this year with how they sit right now and how they're going to perform this year. We're not looking at it as a dynasty, as your team as a dynasty whole, but how they're going to perform this year.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a little difficult, and we have something later at the end that kind of helps to address that. But yeah, for this purposes of this video, we're talking about ranking how competitive your team is right now.
And the Buffalo Bills, and I think we both have our notes here on our phone.
Yep.
We should probably do every other, start it off. So I'm going to let you go first on this one, and then I'll go first on the next one, and then we'll continue to switch off.
Sure thing. Yeah, I had them in that middle tier with we call it a team with a strong core. That's where I had this team. You have a quarterback, congratulations, Trevor Lawrence. You have a tight end, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, you don't have to worry. That's set it and forget it. That's very valuable in this league. I'm a little worried, though, about wide receiver and running back. You got two running backs, but they're both old, and you basically have no wide receivers and no depth. But this is the beginning of a really good team, I think. I'm just a little worried about the timeline. You got the wide receivers are far and few between. Keon Coleman is nice, but he just got into the league, and David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, they're like almost starting to become on their way out of the league. So, I just couldn't put them any higher than that. Where did you have them ranked?
I had them at a 3 or a 4. Yeah. Looking at this makes me have them more at the 4 end, but my first initial reaction was that they were a 3, so I'm good with them there.
As a tiebreaker, they got a good defense. I wrote that down too.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
above average defense.
I'd agree.
Not that matters a ton in this league. I know
Right.
different people have different philosophies on that. I've been in this league. This will be my third year, I think. And even though they adjusted the scoring a little bit, we're going to be talking mostly offense today.
Definitely. I definitely agree. Okay. moving on to the New England Patriots. I have them also at a tier 3.
Okay. Interesting. Why is that?
That is because let's see, let's look at their team. Brian Murphy. Yeah,
Is
I
that
mean
Jalen Guyton in the starting lineup?
yeah, that's that's a rough one. I don't know. Gus Bus is going to do really well this year. McCall Horn, he must have. Let's see here.
Yeah, you would think.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not. I don't see much other wide receiver help on his team. Yeah, maybe we bump the. What do you have?
I I had them at the bottom.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
Sorry,
I
but
don't know. No, no, I don't know. There is a slight disadvantage maybe being at the top of the first couple teams you see because you have a hard time comparing them to anything else. Um, yeah,
yeah,
I
I
kind of
mean,
have.
maybe we split the difference.
Okay, okay, let's do that. I like that.
That seems fair because they also have a above average defense. I like Trenton Simpson stepping in Baltimore. He
Hmm.
snagged Dallas Turner and Byron Murphy, so
Right.
he's got a nice young core on defense. Um, Shout out Justin Tucker, but this team, no wide receivers at all.
No,
Nobody
no
to
wide
really
receivers at
play,
all.
and
Yep.
and no one coming off the bench. Like you just,
Right.
I don't know how competitive it's going to be. But
Yeah, yeah. I'm leaning towards that. We're gonna leave you. We're gonna leave you at the please help for now. All right, the New York Jets. What do you have there?
this is a really competitive team. Um, I had them in the playoff worthy tier, borderline top tier. Um, just really well balanced. I think this team is rising in value too. As we talk, Zamir White was a huge winner of the offseason. Jared Goff just got a massive contract extension, so that helps for Dynasty. Um, yeah, just another top tier defense. Um, Beginning to think though in this division maybe that cancels out because all these teams have stacked defenses.
Hmm.
So that's kind of interesting. But no, I think it's a very well-rounded team. Um, yeah, just not a lot of like they don't have a top tier player. It's just very well balanced. I can see them accumulating a lot of points. What do you think?
I think this team has a chance to win it all. To be quite honest, Jared Goff as a quarterback. I mean, you got to start there as a evaluating a team. Moving on to running back and wide receivers, James Cook, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk. I get
Yeah,
it that his flex spots are a little questionable right now. I don't honestly. I don't think that matters for the way that this team is set up. I think I put them at a good chance to win it all.
sure, sure. And as a tiebreaker, I mean they're the team I was talking about. They have three first round picks for next year of other teams that we'll get to in a bit, but
Hmm.
I think those are going to be nice future picks. So and he
Yeah.
can unload those at any time to make a push. So I have no
Right.
problem with putting him at that top tier.
Okay. Okay. And then last of the AFC East, we have the Miami Dolphins. Let's take a look at their team before I give them my designation. Derrick Henry, Jalen Waddle, Jahan Dotson, Dawson Knox, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Deshaun Watson as their offensive starters. I gave them a tier 2. I gave them playoff worthy, especially
So did I.
comparing them to. Yeah, okay.
Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and DeAndre Swift. That's easily the best running back room in the whole league. And I just think it's super
100%.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, I think it's super interesting to see the different strategies that everyone came into this with and the different team builds. Um, you know, running backs, their shelf life, everyone talks about this, but like I just really love the specific guys he grabbed. Like I don't see a whole lot of problems. We know Derrick Henry's old, but this year he's looking like he's gonna carry the rock for a run first team. He's gonna score a ton of touchdowns. And Swift just got a contract. Jonathan Taylor just got a contract. I think he's gonna have a huge year. Both those guys are relatively young, so.
He also has Mike Will, Byron Scott, KJ Hamler in the reserves.
Yep. Yeah. Just swap Mike Williams and Jahan Dotson, and his starting lineup looks just as competitive as any of the ones we're going to talk about.
Every backup for Deshaun Watson on his roster, so he's set just in case. Solid defense, a couple old guys, but yeah, I mean we could even make an argument to push him to bump this team up to win it all, but I'm going to leave him with two.
Defense is so I think compared to what we've seen so far.
I'm going to leave him at two though.
But yeah, no, a very good team. Very good team.
Okay. Moving on to the AFC North, Cleveland Browns.
The Cleveland Browns, I put them as playoff worthy. We'll talk about it. There are just a small amount of teams that have two starting quarterbacks. This is one of them. He has C.J. Stroud and Bo Nix. We're talking about this year, not necessarily dynasty value. Dynasty value, you could make a case to put them higher. I think I like the build. It's young. It's interesting. And it's definitely playoff worthy. But yeah, it gets a little clunky, seeing Hayden Hurst in the starting lineup. This is one of the only leagues you're ever going to see that, Mixon, Stevenson, he's got guys. I don't hate it.
Yep. Yeah, neither do I. Okay, that was easy. Moving on. Steelers. I have them as, let's see here.
This was a hard one for me.
Pittsburgh Steelers. I put them and please help. I've given them a 4.
That's where I landed too, which is hard because Lamar Jackson. It's like, how low can you rank a team that has Lamar?
Exactly. There's just not a lot. I don't see a lot else going on, to be quite honest.
Yeah. And we'll this is kind of tipping my hand and kind of how I like to build my teams. It's the opposite of what's going on here. There's just no wide receivers. You got guys at the other positions, but no wide receivers and no depth. Nobody coming off the bench for this team. And the running backs that you do have are old. So it's like you got Taysom Hill's an old man. You got two 29-year-old running backs. Like, we know those running backs are going to miss games too, right? James Conner, Aaron Jones.
100%.
So, I don't know. It's, yeah, I kind of wanted to say strong core because we are kind of looking at just this year, but I just don't like it. I honestly, I had too many other teams in that same middle tier. I was like, I got to bump a couple teams down.
Yep, that's a good point. I think we in a total agreement there.
Baltimore Ravens, I gave them, I put them in that strong core tier, the middle tier, B tier. They have a really good young group of skill players. I like it. Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, Brock Bowers, Geno Smith at quarterback seems stable. It's just a really all-around sort of well-built team. It just kind of runs out, I feel like. You have Jerick McKinnon in the starting lineup, and you're like, surely that can't be right. Surely he has someone else that would be better in the starting lineup. The closest thing you can find is like Juwan Jennings. So bye weeks, this team might not really fill out all the roster spots, but I really like what they're doing. I think they have a strong core. I think they're perfect for this tier. What do you think?
Yep. I 100% agree. Initially I ranked them just a little bit higher, but now that I'm seeing their starting lineup, like you said, Jerick McKinnon, and replaced by either Juwan Jennings or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Maybe Dalvin Cook gets on a team. I doubt it, but yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
don't know. I
hard.
mean, they might be even higher if we were talking about like dynasty, like which of these teams would I rather like take over as an orphan? Like I don't know.
Mm,
I really like what they have going. But yeah, Brock Bowers isn't going to do a whole lot his rookie year just because the nature of tight ends. Jalen Hyatt, I like the player, but it just sucks for him that not only did they keep Daniel Jones, they kind of drafted his replacement in the first round.
yep,
But I like a
yep.
lot of these guys. I like Chase Brown too.
I like Chase Brown a lot. Also, just the combo pieces, the Geno to Metcalf, he has the running game with
Hmm.
Chase Brown
I didn't notice that. Yeah.
and Jamar Chase. I mean, Jamar Chase and DK Metcalf can score in this league. They can score maybe half this guy's. They can score. They could win
Yeah.
games for this team. Those two players
Oh, that's what
alone.
Jamar
So
Chase does. Yeah,
exactly.
he'll lose you some games, but he'll just straight up win you some by himself.
Right. So, but no, I think this is a if there was an in between the playoff worthy and strong core, they would be right there in my mind. But I like the strong core.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cincinnati Bengals. That's me, and I have them as also as a strong core. Kyler Murray, St. Brown. Um,
Love that. Um, I mean, this team went rookie heavy, got a lot of rookies on it, which is great. And you totally can't start Kendrick Bourne. You can just throw Kendrick Bourne
oh
into the starting lineup. So that's
yes.
one good player on the bench. Um, yeah, I don't know. It is kind of a tweener between the strong core and the in need of help.
Yeah, for
Uh,
this team, it has to be. There's no way this team is going to get. This team needs a lot of help this year if they want to even make the playoffs.
yeah, let's throw them into that please help category.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, but yeah, I love Kyler Murray and Amon Ra, and then we'll see what happens with Roman Wilson.
Right.
I don't even know who his quarterback is, but I like the player.
Neither do we. Neither does the Bengals. Indianapolis Colts.
Indianapolis Colts, new proud manager of AR-15, Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson, Adam Thielen, Tony Pollard, Deontay
George Kittle.
Foreman, George Kittle. Definitely has some strong pieces.
Yeah, this
What are
is a
you
hard
giving
one
them?
too. It's a hard one. I think I think this team needs Jesus.
This team needs Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah, this team is trash.
I don't love teams that don't have wide receiver. I think that's really important in this league. This is a full PPR league with a
Right.
lot of flex spots. You just need guys at that position, and he has Adam Thielen, old man Adam Thielen, and no one
That's it.
else. Yeah,
That's it. Yep.
that's a problem.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, what are you thinking about the Titans?
Ice, Justin Jefferson, Njoku, Achan, Mostert, Aaron Rodgers, defensive players. Bench is not terrible, not bad, but that starting
It's
lineup,
not good
that
either.
offensive starting lineup is good chance to probably win it all this year.
Elite. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an elite team. Assuming Rodgers can make it through the year, I
hmm
think this team is just as competitive as any other team. Defense is ridiculous. Um,
He has one of
Boy,
my
yeah,
favorite
I don't know that we
players.
need to really go on about this. I mean, you can say what you want about Rasheed Rice, but like his other wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, who is basically counts as two. So,
He has one of my
and it's
favorite
young.
players with Winfield. Winfield. Yep. Yep. I
I
agree.
kind of I kind of like what he did with the team build. I mean, this is, I think. the best team in the league, so we can hang here for a minute. That's all right. I think he kind of strategically paired really young players with old veterans. And I think that's really smart. The Dolphins running back room is kind of an obvious situation because they're on the same team, right? But it's like, yeah, if when Mostert ages out, that's okay because you have Achan. You know, it's
Right.
like, uh, yeah, there's a couple other like on defense. He has young guys just kind of waiting. Um, yeah, it is a little top heavy though. Not a ton on the bench,
Which
but
you would
yeah,
hope
there.
for. You would hope that a team isn't fully stacked to where they could have two starting lineups or one and a half starting lineups.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, when Aaron Rodgers gets old and when his career finally croaks, he's still gonna have Justin Jefferson. He's still gonna have Rashad White. Like,
right.
he's gonna have guys. He's gonna have value, and I don't see this team really going anywhere anytime soon.
Nope, neither do I. Jacksonville Jaguars. Saquon Barkley, Terry McLaurin, Daryl Mooney, Dallas Goddard, KJ Osborne, Elijah Moore, Jaden Daniels.
I'm looking at it now, and I'm kind of second guessing myself. I kind of like it more than I did. I had them at in the strong core tier, in the middle tier. Um, I think just having Darnell Mooney and KJ Osborne in your starting lineup. I mean, those are things you would expect from a 32 team league. But yeah, it's not like wowing me. But at the same time, I could totally see this team racking up some wins. Saquon Barkley's going to have a huge year. I like Jaden Daniels for fantasy. Good defense, I think, above average defense. Oh yeah, I didn't even get to the taxi
Has,
squad.
he has Blake Corum in the reserves too.
Love it. I love it when you scroll down on these teams and you're like, oh, they have more starters. Like that's
Yep.
not every team has that as we've seen. So that's really cool. Which tier did you have this team in?
I had them at playoff worthy. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be really a challenge because they are in the same division as the Titans, but I think in any other division that they could compete for making the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't want to hold that against them in a rankings video. I wouldn't
No,
bet on them to make the playoffs, but yeah, I have no problem putting
no.
them in that playoff worthy tier.
Okay, now we go down to the Houston Texans. That's me first. I'm going to take a look at their team, get an evaluation. I think, as we all know, the quarterback position is the number one priority in this league, and in my opinion, he has the number one fantasy quarterback. So he gets a pretty
Yep.
big bump just because of that. Everything else on his team screams, "Dear God."
Yeah, like the team that had Lamar Jackson. It's like, boy, how I can't justify ranking this team that low. It's like you have Josh Allen. So,
Right.
and of course, sacrifices are going to be made in the startup draft when you make a move to get Josh Allen. He went out and got Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and they're not on the same team anymore, which is kind of a bummer.
Right.
Don't he lost the stack. Something I will say about this squad is Stephon Diggs, Rome Odunze. I love both of those guys. Those are both valuable fantasy assets. But for this year, how much is Rome Odunze producing this year? He's probably wide receiver 3 on an offense with a rookie quarterback.
Right.
In a 32 team league, like that's totally a guy you want to have. But like this isn't his prime, and this might be the last year of Stephon Diggs' prime. So I just kind of worry about the timeline. But yeah, we're talking about this year. How competitive are they this year? I put them in the strong core tier.
As did I. Broncos. That's you. What do you think? I'll name out the offensive starters: Eckler, AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, Zach Ertz,
Samaje.
Samaje. Thank you, Samaje Perine, Zach Moss, Caleb Williams.
That's hot. I'm so happy for this manager and this team. I think this team benefited most from doing a reset. I mean, this team was destitute before. Just no hope. Honestly, terrible. Just everything you don't want to do in a dynasty league, he did it, and look at him now. I have this team as playoff worthy. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I mean Eckler's old, Cooper Cup's old, Zach Ertz is old, but like we're talking about this year, um, in a 32 team league, having Caleb Williams is a massive deal. I just think
Hmm.
that some of these other teams that are a little more balanced, they're lacking that firepower. This team has that firepower with AJ Brown, Cooper Cup. I think Austin Eckler still has some juice. We'll see what happens, but I think at the very least he's going to catch a ton of passes.
Right.
Um, Zach Moss is going to have a big role with the Bengals, a good offense, as long as Burrow stays upright.
Los Angeles Chargers. Let's pull up that team. This is one of the teams that does not have a starting quarterback.
Yeah, they need Jesus.
They need Jesus. They have Kyron, though. That's, I mean,
Kyron's
it's
not Jesus.
no, no, he's not. Man, I want to give them the bump, but you can't rank a team that doesn't have a quarterback anything. Yeah, you can't rank them anything above the worst.
I
You
mean,
can't.
yeah, it's tough. I mean, we're talking about how competitive are you this year, and I mean they got a lot going for them. I mean, it's honestly
They
not
do.
a bad squad.
I
It's a
agree.
pretty good squad. What they had the number one rookie pick, right? And then they like traded back and then didn't
Mm-hmm.
take a quarterback. So
Mm-hmm.
I totally see what they're doing.
There's no way you're going to compete you're going to get last in your division if you don't have a quarterback, guaranteed.
I had the Chiefs as that strong core, the middle tier,
Mm,
and we'll see. Yeah, yeah, you got to pull it up. So yeah, I mean Brees Hall and Trey Benson. That's anyone would love to take over that team as an orphan.
yes,
And then you have
yes.
other young, kind of interesting wide receivers. This is a team that is not too old, very competitive defense. And then yeah, we'll see with Bryce Young. It's a big wait and see. Um, Hard to rank.
I personally, I think they deserve the two spot. I'm going to make a big argument for John O. Smith, Jameson Williams, Brees Hall. You would think Bryce Young makes a little bit of a bump, but look at that defense: Brian Burns, Joey Bosa,
Yeah.
Fred Warner. I mean, all guys that are just going to rack up the points on their respective team on their respective NFL teams. I don't know. I think this team has a little bit going for them, and they're sneaky about it.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, I don't love a roster build that doesn't prioritize wide receiver, but if I had to choose, I mean, it would be the team that has Brees Hall, Trey Benson, and then
Right.
yeah, that defense is awesome.
It's just so
So
stacked. Yeah. So what? You okay making them a playoff worthy or what?
sure, sure, yeah,
Okay.
there are no rules. I love what the Panthers did for Bryce Young. They drafted wide receiver in the first
Hmm.
round, running back in the second round, and tight end in the third round. So
Right.
I mean, I think I said this on a podcast episode, but it's just like the Panthers don't care if they lose every game this season, just as long as the offense is cranking. So for fantasy, I think you could do worse
Right.
than Young, but yeah, we'll see.
Raiders. This was me. Again, a team without potentially without a starting quarterback. It's okay, but if you don't have a starting quarterback, again, you just automatically get thrown into Jesus. Please save me.
I I mean, look, it's like oops, all wide receivers. which I think is super interesting for this league. I don't hate it. I don't want to bury the Raiders here. I mean, we can bury them in the rankings, but I really see what they're doing. They're good fantasy pieces. It's just not a competitive team as it stands right now. I mean, like this team is like one trade away.
Yeah,
Right,
that's true.
you trade
Maybe,
Fields and a future first for a quarterback, and then you're like multiple tiers higher. So
okay, I mean, I can. I have to leave. We have to leave him in the bottom for right now. But yes, I totally agree. I can't. I want to move him up just one spot. But if you don't have a start if for some reason Justin does become the starter,
yeah,
you're right. Or do they trade for a starter? You're totally right. They get bumped up to strong core, maybe even playoff worthy, depending
yeah,
on whatever goes. But,
they're like mid tier in our hearts, but
right, exactly,
not in our
exactly.
league.
Yep, not in our league. Yep. All right, moving on to the NFC. We got the Philadelphia Eagles, and you are first to give your take. I'm going to
My
go through the
division. We're in my
players. Yeah,
division
your
now.
own
How about
division.
that?
Jonathan Brooks, Calvin Ridley, George Pickens, Tommy Tremble, Jonathan Bates, Marvin Harrison Jr., Justin Herbert.
Yeah, that sounds like a strong core to me. I have them in that middle tier. You gotta love Justin Herbert, Marvin Harris. Like this team is obviously built for the future. Um, Calvin really, I think the only player who's on the older side, but he still has tread on the tires because he's hasn't played football in like a decade. Um, yeah, no, I think it's the definition of like that strong core where it's like, yep, you have that position locked down, you have that position locked down, and it's the hard ones too. So, um, yeah, I see where he's going, but you don't have the depth to like compete this year as it
Yeah.
stands. That's kind of how I see
Yep.
it. There's no one on the bench, and you're starting Tommy Tremble and John Bates. So I don't think
Yeah.
he's going to be surprised or offended. Like I totally see what he's doing.
Yeah. So do I. And having Justin Herbert as your quarterback, I mean that's probably a top 3, top 5 fantasy quarterback for this year. So makes sense. Dallas Cowboys. We have
Javante Williams.
Monte Williams, Mike Evans, Jacoby Myers, Trey McBride, Puka, Chris Godwin, and Dak Prescott. I know you've been hammering wide receivers this conversation. The only knock I have is you have the 2 wide receivers on Tampa Bay. That is the only knock I have on this team. Besides that, they're a one. They have a good chance to win it all in my
Yeah,
opinion.
if Baker goes down, that would be devastating
Right.
to this team. So yeah, there's a couple sort of Jenga pieces you got to watch out for. I don't know. At first, I was like, I kind of like it, but then looking at it closer, Javante Williams is always disappointed. Mike Evans is old. Jacoby Myers, who cares? Trey McBride, a couple good weeks. Like get over yourself. Puka. They're not financially invested in Puka. They could
Oh my
honestly
gosh.
release him at any time. And then Chris Godwin's over the hill.
Oh
Dak,
my
the most
gosh.
overrated quarterback in the NFL.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow. Shots fired. It's not like you're placing this guy at all this year. Wow. Tolliver, I'm sorry, man. This guy's digging at you hard.
I just don't see it.
Okay. I don't
I
know.
don't see it.
Puka's going to be putting up great numbers.
No,
Jacoby is.
obviously, I'm joking. This is a
Oh,
really
okay.
good team.
Okay. All
It's
right.
a
All
great
right. You
team.
got
It's
me
a
there.
great team.
You got me there.
I made a case though. I guess. No. I'm envious of this team. It's super balanced. I mean, you look at the players who are in the flex spot for this team. Realistically, you swap Myers and Puka, so it's like Jacoby Myers and Chris Godwin. Those guys are putting up points every single week. So
Right.
every time we run into a team that's like like this doesn't even look like a 32 team league
No,
roster.
no, it
So
does
like
not.
when we run into some of those like the Titans have, it's just like it puts the other teams into perspective, right? Like
Hmm.
sometimes I feel like we're being harsh, and then I run into a roster like this, and I'm like, oh no, we weren't being harsh. Like,
Right, right. Yep. And he even has Zeke and Dowell on the bench. Tyson Chandler, if he, if when he's definitely going to get some time.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
he actually hasn't sold all of his picks yet. This is the longest he's ever held on to a draft
Right.
pick that he could sell.
Right.
So
I hear you.
this team might even be more improved by the time September rolls around.
Sure. Sure. Well, you had me going on that one. Well, I'm not going to let you do your. I'm not going to let us do our own teams.
I
So
appreciate that.
I'm gonna rank it for you. I'm gonna look at my notes first, and then I'm gonna look at your team. We got Kenneth Walker, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Cody Parkinson, Alvin Kamara, Lad McConkey, and Jalen Hurts. I think. Let's see. Why isn't it scrolling? There we go. Just double checking your defense. I think this is a two, easy two. Yeah, you're a piece away from competing at all, in my opinion. I think
I thought we were friends,
I think
bro.
Jalen is a top three quarterback. I think Kamara is still going to get a bunch of passes thrown to him this year. Christian Kirk is the wide receiver number one on that team. Kenneth Walker is hopefully going to play most of the year, and you know, who knows what happens with Parkinson? Who knows if you keep Parkinson by the time the season starts? You have Jelani Woods just in case. You got Curtis Samuel on the bench.
I'm happy with the youth and with the depth. Yeah, it doesn't look like like a rock star roster like a couple of the others we've seen.
It's
So yeah,
close. It's really
I
close.
had myself in the same tier.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool, cool, cool. All right, now the Giants. Now this was definitely I was a little surprised pulling up their roster. For some reason, just in the draft, the startup draft, the rookie draft, I just didn't really trade pick. This owner didn't really trade picks and didn't like make a lot of crazy splashy moves that were obviously that stuck in my head. So, but then when I pulled up the roster, man, I was pleasantly surprised.
It's Bijan and Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
They have a quarterback. They have a plan for the future at that position. That's hard. And yeah, they have a guy. Who knows? Like we could be wrong about Drake May. Not much else. I
It
had
does.
them at that please help
Okay.
tier.
Yeah, it does need a lot of help. You're right. You're right. It's just especially in the division that they're in, and yeah, it's just they it's in my opinion they have a weird chance to finish second or last in their own division. Green Bay Packers. All right, I'm going to let you go first. I'm going to look at what I said, and then I'm going to read their team. Christian McCaffrey, Odell, who is this feller? Butte. I don't even know. Travis Kelsey,
I
J.K.
don't want to help
Dobbins.
you because that's too funny. I don't. I'm just gonna leave you hanging there.
Yeah, I don't even know. Darren Waller, not in the league anymore, and Sam Howell. Really strong defense, in my opinion. Myles Garrett, DeMarcus Lawrence, Matt Milano, C.J. Gardner Johnson.
Kind of old.
Very old,
Demarcus
very
Lawrence.
rusty.
I mean, his entire defense is like 30 plus. He
Yes, I
doesn't have a
agree.
quarterback. I wrote down in my notes. Maybe this is too mean, but I wrote down in my notes literally just two players. It's Christian
Yeah.
McCaffrey and Travis
Nope.
Kelsey.
It is. It is. And you don't have a starting quarterback, so guess what? It gets to happen to you. Boom. Okay, on to the Bears.
Chicago.
Chicago. This is me. Antonio Gibson, Tyreek Hill, Kadarius Toney, Mike Gesicki. I forget his name. Something Hardy. Braden
Deontay,
Rice.
yeah, Deontay
Deontay
Hardy.
Hardy. Thank you. Braden Rice. Russell Wilson. I'm going to give this team. I mean, I know you got Tyreek. I know you got Chris Jones. That's about it.
What tier do you have this team in?
I have this team as a 4.
In the please help.
In the please help me.
Yeah, so this team made a trade. Off the dome, I don't know what the trade was, but they don't own their own first. They made a swap ski with the Jets, so they own the Jets' future first-round pick. The Jets owns their future first-round pick, which if you look at the tier and you look at the team, that's a problem. I don't know how much longer Russell Wilson's even going to be a starter. So similar to the last team where it's like you have CMC and Travis Kelce, that's awesome. This team has Tyreek Hill, that's awesome. But it's like, what else?
Yep.
I don't really see it.
Okay, let's do it. Sorry, Bears.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Detroit Lions.
Detroit
My
Lions.
notes.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in here for the Detroit Lions. I hate how he doesn't set his lineup. That makes this hard. But he has J.J. McCarthy at quarterback, not Trey Lance. And, yeah, he's got pieces. He's got Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. That's awesome. He's got some interesting defensive players. L'Jarius Sneed, Quinnen Williams. The Detroit Lions, probably the biggest loser of the offseason with just what happened to some of his players. It's kind of unfortunate. That's what I have in my notes. Michael Mayer is his starting tight end, and he got replaced in the draft. Sucks. Right. He has Jonathan Mingo, who also got replaced in the draft, just one rung farther down that depth chart. That sucks. Same with Tyquan Thornton. The Patriots, they upgraded at quarterback, but then they drafted 2 wide receivers in the first 4 rounds. So, and then, Dameon Pierce is his best running back, and he got replaced by Devin Singletary. So this is, it's kind of sad, but at the same time, there are guys. So I don't know where we want to put them. I put them at the please help, but you could talk me into a strong core.
Yeah, I mean you're all about your wide receivers. He has Garrett Wilson, Romeo Doubs, which I think is probably the better wide receiver, and on Green Bay, and then Chris Olave. Everything else after that kind of.
And I think J.J. McCarthy is interesting too. I just don't know how much a rookie quarterback's going to do for him this year. If we're talking about this year.
We are talking about this year, and I don't know. I agree. I don't know how much JJ's going to be doing.
There's not as many teams in the strong core.
No.
I don't know if we want to use that as a tiebreaker.
Sure. I mean, we're going to do another one of these right before the season starts, so give us time to reevaluate, see what happens during mini camp and off-season workouts, etc. So I can lean that way for now. Minnesota Vikings. Tajay Spears, Devontae Smith, Jordan Addison, Dalton Schultz, Cole Kmet, Khalif Raymond, Brock Purdy.
Brian Robinson of the Commanders.
Oh, that's right.
Malachi Corley, rookie for the Jets. He's got some interesting guys on his taxi squad. I actually see a team with some depth. Yeah, you just got to really pick around for it.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that with Brian Robinson. Then, I mean, this team, I don't know if it can compete for. Depends on how Brock Purdy does this year. I think last year Brock Purdy was super efficient, but all he did was just pass from the pocket and let his players do his thing, which got them to the Super Bowl. But and did really well for fantasy. But will this team have a chance to win it all? I don't think so, but I would probably put them as like the top one or two teams in the playoff worthy tier.
That's where I had them ranked too, and especially if you look at their division. Their division is yikes. So I think this team's
Exactly.
definitely playoff bound. Has
Right.
that depth that we like. Uh, Defense is good. Max Crosby, and yeah, some dangerous players throughout
Yeah,
the rest of the
Preston
defense.
Smith.
And it's young. I mean, I totally see what they're doing. You go down the list of their starting lineup, like no one is even close to 30 years old. So
Yeah, he has Van Ginkel as the linebacker that got signed to Minnesota too. Ibaka
yeah,
from the Colts. I mean, yeah, his
from our alma
defense is
mater. Yeah,
stacked depth wise, and yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay.
I like it. Yep. Next.
Car- Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, your division is very hard to rank. I thought every single team. Two QBs. That's the first thing that jumps out to me when I look at this team. Will Levis and Gardner Minshew. There was some rumblings about Aiden O'Connell taking the first snaps at practice. I don't know how much to read into that in May, but
Yeah.
he's set
Yeah.
at quarterback for this year. That's a stronger quarterback room than we've seen. The rest of his starters are super interesting. Tank Dell, Drake London, Zay Flowers. I mean, that is a strong core. I don't know if he has the players around that strong core to bump it up into the playoff worthy tier. Running back, his best running back is Jerome Ford, which if Nick Chubb comes back, Jerome Ford is hard to start. He has
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs backup in Green Bay. Um, yeah, I would just leave them in that strong core. What do you think?
Sure. No, I have them exactly in that spot. I
Yep.
think without a starting running back, you're pretty limited on your ceiling.
I'll go ahead and talk about the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
Um, yeah, this is another sort of strong core team. I like that it is balanced. We have Devin Singletary, who has kind of a sneaky big contract with the Giants. Just kind of mentally swap him and Madison because Devin Singletary is definitely his best running back. And then you have T. Higgins at wide receiver, Dalton Kincaid at tight end, and Joe Burrow at quarterback. Those are like awesome set it and forget it pieces at those onesie positions. I think it's better overall than the Panthers, but yeah, it's just kind of incomplete. Sky Moore and Josh Palmer in the starting lineup, or Alexander Madison. It's kind of like this is a team that has multiple very like desirable hot commodities in Dynasty. Like when you draft a tight end early in the startup, you're just going to end up with holes elsewhere. It just happens. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like an incomplete to me.
I mean, I just don't trust at this point. I might be in my solo camp here, but I just don't trust Joe Burrow. It's really hard. He's more unhealthy than healthy. He's had one superhero season. They paid him for that superhero season. The rest of the year, the rest of the time he's been in the league, he's been hurt,
That's
and
interesting.
that's why I was a big. I mean, leaking into my thought process. That's why I was a big component in drafting his backup because he's gonna miss time this year. It's just
That's
inevitable.
really interesting. I mean, that would be devastating for this team. I think we probably put them in the strong core tier. Um, Man,
I
yeah, he
know.
doesn't run either. That was the other thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, he
He's
doesn't
not
run.
really a fantasy quarterback as
Right.
much as he is an NFL quarterback. He's kind of one of those guys. Um, yeah, I don't know. You'd almost rather like a Jaden Daniels, but
He has no wide receiver help. He has very little running back help. I
What
just
tier
I
did you
don't.
put this team in? Did you put them
I
lower?
Yeah, I put them in the needs. Please help me.
Please help. Yeah, you could talk me into it. Look at the defense. It's like good cover corners, not necessarily
Hmm.
like tackling machines.
Right. Yeah, not so much safeties. Yeah, exactly. They're going to be tackling. They're going to get past defenses and interceptions, but how much are they going to be tackling their opponents? I do like Jake Moody, but I mean, just Sky Moore, he's irrelevant. Josh Palmer, he's probably going to be irrelevant. Alexander Madison, probably going to be. I mean, yeah, you can keep him in your starting lineup, but I don't know. I mean, Braylon, you might
MVS
be
just
able to
got a
start.
job.
MVS just got a job. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll bump him with the Panthers.
Yeah, I just think it's a nice young core. Dalton Kincaid, Joe Burrow. I mean, those are still in a 32 team league. It's a big
Sure.
deal, right? And
Yeah.
I like the balance too. You kind of got one guy at every offensive position there, and the
Yeah, that's
defense
true.
is
That's a good point. Yeah, I can agree
fine.
there.
Next,
All right.
oh, it's you.
On to me. Yeah, I'll let you go for it. Rip me a new one.
Yeah, so this team is ass. No, I'm just kidding. Jameer Gibbs, I mean, total rock star. Kirk Cousins, and then you drafted Kirk Cousins back up just like the real life Atlanta Falcons. It's kind of like
Hmm.
taking eating your vegetables, taking your pills as far
Yeah.
as Dynasty goes. Um, that is kind of limiting upside as it stands. But yeah, it's a very balanced, very safe starting lineup. You have Michael Pittman. I think we kind of disagree on Raheed Shaheed. I think you think he's up and coming. I think he's just kind of a return specialist that's been asked to do too much. But yeah, no, I think it's just really well rounded. I like the build. I totally see where you're going with it. Great defense. Javon Holland is a stud. Diablo, Sweat. I mean, yeah, it's really hard to argue with. I don't think it's like top tier by any means, but um, boy, yeah. I mean, like I said, with
Yeah.
this division, everyone seemed kind of like borderline, like around that middle tier, maybe like a little higher, maybe a little lower.
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, if I had to give it like a grade, I'd give it a B plus.
Okay.
Um,
I'll take it. Yeah, I got Conklin in the wings. I got who I'm sure Zeke will be obviously the starter, but I mean there is a chance that Freeman sees the ball. Probably not, but there is a small chance. Offensive wise, I'm really keen on this Reese Zambit guy making the roster on Kansas
oh
City.
yeah, the rugby player.
The rugby player, yeah, I'm really keen on him at least just making the roster, and then yeah, the upside is there if he
I'll
makes
be
the
thrilled
roster.
for you, dude. I'll be thrilled for you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I think I have a hard time throwing a team in that playoff worthy tier that's starting AJ Dillon and Calvin Austin.
That's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
I could be off, but I put you in the strong core tier.
Sure, let's do it. Okay, moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll take this one. So they got Josh Jacobs, Jaron Reed, Cortland Sutton, Greg Dulcich, A.T. Perry, Jamison Williams, and Matthew Stafford. So when I first saw this team, I saw a glaring obvious thing is wow, they have too many eggs in the same basket. Jerron Reed and Jacobs, Sutton and Dolch, A.T. Perry, Jamison Williams. I mean,
Yeah, he's a Packers fan with a soft spot in his heart for the Saints, it seems like.
gotcha. Yeah. So it's just hard to say that this team can when you have I know it's only two players on the same team, but you're banking on those specific those three teams as well as Matthew Stafford to do well and to
Yeah, yeah.
protect you into the playoffs.
I'll say one thing. Can you scroll down to his taxi squad because he has
Yeah,
Jamal
yeah, yeah.
Williams in his starting lineup, but he actually has Kendre Miller. So does
Yeah,
that do
that
anything
doesn't.
for you or no?
No,
No.
Kendrick.
AD
It's
Mitchell for the
Kamara. It's
Colts.
Kamara's team.
It
It's
is.
Kamara.
Yeah. Yeah, for this year, which is what we're talking about. So I hear you.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if you just put AD Mitchell and Kendre Miller in the starting lineup instead of what he has set right now, I like it more. I really like his defensive pieces. Him and I seem to be kind of in lockstep in terms of certain defensive players that we both agree are underrated. I don't know if we listen to some of the same content or what, but I'm kind of high on this team. I think it has some balance. It's got wide receivers. Got Josh Jacobs is an excellent running back, especially if we're just looking at this year. I think he's in line for a big year. I'm an A.T.
Mm.
Perry guy. I think he's way underrated. Um, and then yeah, Matthew Stafford. He's a guy who doesn't have a lot of value in Dynasty, but if we're talking about this year, I think this is a really competitive squad that it would be kind of a mistake to look past. What tier did you have this team in?
I had them at a three or a strong core or please help. I had them either one. I really don't like that. If you switch O'Donnell or Aiden Mitchell, excuse me,
Yeah.
then it does mix it up a little bit. But I am just not a component, especially in a 32 team league where switching off of somebody, an offensive player specifically, is hard to do. I'm just not a great component in. I like Sutton. I like Josh Jacobs. I somewhat like Matthew Stafford. Having those other support players on the same team as those your strong players just it doesn't resonate with me. I guess so. That's the knock, and the plus is I agree is that this team could probably, especially in this division, this NFC South, it could probably compete for the top spot. It's going to be close though.
Yeah, yeah. I think just as a tiebreaker, we'll throw it into the strong core with the rest of the division. That's going to
Sure,
be the most fun division to track. I think.
sure.
That's just insane how kind of close those all are. And it honestly, I'm surprised we don't have more divisions like that because we just started this league. We just
Right,
did the startup draft, so
right,
like everyone should be really close. It checks out, right? We'll see
right,
as we go on. There'll be some like divergence, as the timeline continues.
right.
But yeah, that's super interesting to track. And yeah, I kind of like what the Buccaneers are doing.
Yeah, the last division. I'm going to let you take the Seattle Seahawks.
This is a sneaky good team.
I agree.
It's between strong core and playoff worthy to me. I say we throw them into the playoff worthy, and I'll tell you why. They have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, obviously. That's a huge deal. I think they have one of the best wide receiver rooms, one of the deepest wide receiver rooms in the whole league. We're looking at just this year. I think Devontae Adams has at least one elite year left in him. Deontay Johnson's going to be the one there. Xavier Worthy looks like he's stepping into a bigger role. We'll see what happens with Rice. But
Uh,
yeah, I don't know. I really like what they're doing. I think it's interesting. They don't have a lot of depth. It's a hard time counting. Oh, how many players on their bench can they throw into their lineup? Not much.
not much. Yeah.
The defense leaves something to be desired as well. Where did you
Right.
have this team ranked?
Yeah, I had them exactly in this spot, playoff worthy. I think their
Okay.
offense is really good. It has a lot of key parts and a lot of
Yeah,
parts that can kind of substitute for each other as the season goes on, right?
the Steelers are going to run the ball so much. I really like Warren this year.
I do
Sneaky,
too. Yep.
sneaky good.
Yeah. Cool. Arizona Cardinals. I will look at my ranking and go through their team. Roshan Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, JSN, Kyle Pitts, Michael Gallup, Leggett, and Baker Mayfield. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this team. They don't have a start. Unless I'm missing something in their backups or their starting or their taxi squad, they don't have a starting running back. They have Baker, which is going to be good. It's going to be bad some weeks. Kyle Pitts, who knows? CeeDee Lamb is really strong. JSN is really strong for dynasty purposes. I think they have a really strong core, and I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Agreed. Yeah, I wrote down great young core, maybe too young. If we're just talking about this year,
Right.
they got a lot of rookies. JSN is still buried in the depth chart. Kyle Pitts hasn't done anything yet. I know he has a new QB. We'll see. And then yeah, like you said, no running back. So I mean, it's nice. It's better than some other teams, but yeah, I think this is like a great team you would want to take over as an orphan. You know, it's got a lot of great young
Yeah.
pieces. But
Yeah.
yeah,
You wouldn't be too upset. You wouldn't be too thrilled.
well put. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go with the 49ers.
Yeah, I put this team as like a please help. Maybe that's harsh. I
You
mean,
just don't know with Nick Chubb.
yeah, that's a huge question mark. Tua's kind of good, not great. But like I said, I'm partial to roster builds that emphasize wide receiver, and this team is starting Xavier Gibson and
Right.
Devontae Parker. That's really unfortunate.
He does have
There's no one.
Demario Douglas in the
Oh, okay.
in the bench.
Can you do
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
just do something for me? Reed allowed their starting defensive lineup.
Crazy. Nick Bosa, Josh Allen, Jalen Phillips, Alonze, Kyle
Yeah.
Hamilton, and McDuffie. I mean, that's why I totally agree. I totally see where your head's at. But reading when I saw that defensive lineup, starting lineup, I was like, man, I have to bump them. Like their offense is screaming 4, but their defense is screaming 3. Like that's crazy defense right there.
I mean, yeah, if you want to bump them up to strong core, I don't have a problem with that. I just
Yeah.
don't think I think too many resources were poured into the defense for the league that we're
Yeah.
in, but that is an impressive defense. I really want to see what happens with that. If Nick
Right.
Chubb comes back, yeah, we could look stupid putting them in the please help category. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Especially, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna leave him at strong core. We'll know more about Nick Chubb as the offseason goes on.
for sure.
Okay, what about the Rams? Last team. Travis Etienne, Brandon
I
Cooks,
have.
Tyler Lockett,
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Mark Andrews, Luke Musgrave, not bad, and Greg Dortch with Jordan Love as the quarterback. What do you have them at?
I have them at A tier. That playoff worthy.
Ooh, okay, okay.
Yeah, no, it's rock solid. I
It is.
really like what they're doing, especially when you look at it through the lens of this year. How competitive is this team this year? Tyler Lockett and Brandon Cooks are both gonna put up stats.
Right.
You know, like they're not valuable in dynasty compared to some other guys, but like they're gonna put up fantasy points this year. So is Mark Andrews. So is Jordan Love, Travis Etienne. Those are actually great assets. And then he's got T.J. Watt on defense. Yeah, I think this is a really competitive team. What do you think?
Yeah, Jordan Love, Forrest. Yeah, no, that's exactly where I had them. I think this is a playoff team, almost a guaranteed playoff team.
Yeah, offense, he's got Ricky Pearsall on the bench, so that's interesting. We'll see what happens. And then
And he has
defensively, he
Mitchell.
has, for some reason, he has, oh, geez, I'm spacing on his first name. Will Anderson on the bench for the Texans.
Oh, oh yeah, you're
So
right.
just put that guy in the starting lineup, make our jobs a little
Yeah,
easier, and
yeah,
suddenly, yeah, that team's looking dangerous.
yeah. And he has Keon Mitchell from the Baltimore Ravens in the
Yeah,
wings
that's an
too for when he
interesting
gets
piece for
healthy.
sure.
So that's gonna help. Yeah. So this is like I said, I think this is an almost a guaranteed playoff team. Yeah, a lot of playoff worthy teams, more than I expected.
Too many, right? I mean,
Too
only eight
many.
make the playoffs, and you have to win your
Only 8 make
division.
the playoffs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
it should be super interesting to track. I'm excited. Yeah, maybe we were a little too generous, but at this time of year, everyone's healthy.
right.
All the young players with upside are looking good. Uh, yeah, yeah, it's going to be super interesting. So that's our final results. Those are our final tiers. Yeah, yeah. Look at that bell curve. We almost got like a perfect
Yeah,
up and down.
yeah,
I honestly,
yeah.
when I
That
went through this, I only had one team in the top tier,
who was that?
and that was the Titans.
Interesting.
Like I said, a couple of those others were borderline. Um,
Sure.
and I mean, the Cowboys. I mean, I had them at the bottom just because their team's old and overrated. But
Right. Let's see. Let's make sure. Yeah, I only had those three: Tennessee, New York Jets, and Dallas Cowboys. But
okay,
I
yeah,
have I have the NFC East and the I have the NFC East tied with, I believe, with let's see here. I think I have the NFC East and the AFC East as the top two divisions going into the year.
interesting. Yep, yeah. You got the Jets and the Dolphins on that side, and the Cowboys and Commanders. I think at this point, if you've stuck with us for this long through this video, hopefully you're going to find this rewarding. We're going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to walk through what an external resource ranked our league. So the Keep Trade Cut is a crowd-sourced Dynasty resource that attributes a value for every player, and that value represents their dynasty value, their going rate, and it's constantly changing based on how the public is feeling about that player. And this is only taking into account the offensive players. It is taking into account how many players we start. It's a super flex. You'll see it weights the quarterback room very heavily, as it should in a 32 team league. PPR, no tight end premium. So it's pretty accurate. It just doesn't take into account. I have the draft picks turned off, and it doesn't do defensive players. That being said, these are the rankings that it spit out, with the Titans being number one, the Cleveland Browns at number two, Commanders 3, Seahawks 4, Cardinals 5, and the list goes on. And then it breaks it down. Here's how we got there. This is where you rank in terms of quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, relative to the rest of the league. So it goes 1 through 32. So this is a very interesting resource. It's totally free. All you have to do is copy paste our league's ID into the site, and that's really easy to find. It's just in the URL. And then, yeah, as we scroll down here, some of the teams near the bottom. I mean, I imagine this mirrors the tier rankings that we just completed, more or less. But this is Dynasty rankings. This isn't just how competitive are you this year. This is what is the Dynasty value of your roster. And so then we scroll down here. This is the chart. On the x-axis, we have how valuable your team is. And on the y-axis, the average age of your team. So the team at the top of the rankings, the Titans, they're going to be the one farthest on the x-axis. And yeah, when we select them, you can see by position kind of their build. So they have one of the best wide receiver cores, one of the best running back cores, kind of average everywhere else. But yeah, that is really impressive just a month after a startup to be that dominant at running back and wide receiver.
Right.
But it's one of the older teams, So different people have different strategies. That's the beauty of Dynasty. In a perfect world, you would be valuable and young. Some of the teams down here, the Cleveland Browns, and they're here, as you can see in the plot chart down below. They have the most valuable quarterback room in the league. So that's not always going to translate to points. I point to David, and he has Matthew Stafford as an example, where Stafford's going to put up numbers this year as long as all of his wide receivers stay healthy. But he's not that valuable in Dynasty. So,
Right.
yeah, this is just kind of a different way to rank it. And then also down here, oh look, my team, valuable and young, crazy. Houston Texans shout out. Yeah, and then we can highlight like this is the New York Jets. They've accumulated other bad teams' future first round pick
Oh my
before the
God.
rest of us could even think to. Is he retired or something? Is that how he has all this time? I don't know. But hats off to him. That's going to serve him well in the future, or maybe the near future if he moves those picks.
Right.
You mind if I just go through some of these,
Oh no, no,
Andy?
not at all.
Yeah, yeah. The tight ends. The Chargers have far and away the best tight end room in the league. I
Right.
think that was
That's
the
Laporta
Lions. Yes. Yep.
and Pat Firemuth, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So two young, great tight ends.
Right. Right.
That's gonna set you apart for sure. Just interesting builds. What people choose to do. Arizona Cardinals have the deepest and overall most valuable wide receiver room. Miami Dolphins, we talked about them, right? They had like
Right.
those the three-headed monster in their running back room. I think that was
Right.
Derrick
Derrick
Henry.
Henry,
Yep, Swift.
DeAndre Swift, and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, that's
That's crazy.
that's disheartening for the rest of us. But yeah. Anyways,
No, that's
this
great.
is a super interesting resource. I would recommend it, and I hate sharing that with my league mates, but if you made it through an hour plus long video of ours, you know, we appreciate it. That's all I can say. So
Yeah.
yeah, should be fun. Well, and yeah, we'll revisit this at some other time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's constantly moving and shaking with all
Yeah.
this is a very active league. I feel very happy to be a part of it. And yeah, hopefully you guys like the content that we're bringing. Did you have anything
Yeah.
else to add, Andy?
No, it's great that I have it screen saved over here. It's great that we had at least built that foundation for the power rankings, and then we can easily refer back to that in a couple months and make those minor adjustments or major adjustments for the team. But we don't have to run through every
That
single.
would be
But
awesome. No, yeah. I mean, just to see like where we were right, where we were wrong. 'Cause, I mean,
right,
we'll see what happens with the playoffs. Maybe there was a team that we've just kind of buried that
yeah,
stuck in there. That's going to
right,
be really fun to track. And
yeah,
yeah, we'll see. Trades always happen. Picks, which we didn't really take into account. Yeah, I just love it because there's so many different levers you can pull as a
yep.
manager of a dynasty team.
Especially 32 of us.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
All right. Well, yeah, this has been a special edition of the Fantasy Flow. Yeah. See you next time.
See you next time. Thanks, everybody.